UFC 280 is the greatest of all time pay-per-view in UFC history, and here is why. Now, you might be thinking, is it the main card with Oliveira Makhachev, with Sterling versus Dillashaw, with Mateusz Gamrot taking on Beneil Dariush, Caitlin Chukagian, and Manon Fiorot, Piotr Yan, former champion, versus number 12 ranked Sugar Sean O'Malley? And if you were to ask me that, which I'm sure some people are, I'm going to say no. That is not the reason this fight card is the greatest fight card in UFC pay-per-view history. I mean, you can make some debates on UFC 200, on UFC 100, whatever the case may be, but I've never seen a prelim card that has been this stacked. We're not even going to talk about the main card too much in today's video, because we already know how stacked it is. We have Gamrot Dariush. The winner probably gets a title shot, unless like Michael Chandler goes out there, does something crazy spectacular against Dustin Poirier. But if the winner of that one gets a good finish, a good submission, a good TKO, they're probably next in line for the winner of Oliveira versus Makhachev. And not to mention, we have two title fights, one of the most exciting title fights in the MMA world right now, in Oliveira versus Makhachev. Number 2 behind Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka. The co-main, Piotr Dillashaw, TJ Dillashaw, the snake in the grass, taking on Aljamain Sterling, the most controversial UFC champion of all time. And then we got a women's MMA fight, but between girls, that the winner is going to get a title shot in Manon Fiorot and Caitlin Chukagian. So that's why the main card is good. But like I said, the main card is not why this card is so goddamn great. It's the prelims. Now, let's just take a look from the bottom. We're going to go up to the top. I know the top of those prelims are absolutely amazing. And the top of the prelims to the bottom of the prelims could be a fight night itself. I mean, Bilal Muhammad, Sean Brady is the main prelim. An undefeated welterweight, 15-0, taking on Bilal. Remember the decision. Muhammad, I mean, that's an amazing fight. That's not really that good of a fight, but it is two high-level welterweights that are 1 or 2 fights away from a UFC title fight in the welterweight division. So that's amazing. But we're going to start from the bottom. Why UFC 280 is literally the greatest card that I've ever seen. Now, let's start from the bottom. First one, Magomed Mustafayev, Yamato Nishikawa. Magomed Mustafayev, Yamato Nishikawa. If y'all don't know who either of these guys are, because neither guy's been fighting in the UFC that much lately. Magomed hasn't fought in the UFC for 2.5 years. Doesn't matter. Magomed's only losses in the UFC's lightweight division, a controversial split decision to Brad Riddell, one of the best kickboxers in the UFC's lightweight division. The other loss, former title challenger Kevin Lee. And his win, his most recent win in the UFC, Rafael Fiziev. Anyone that somehow doesn't know who Rafael Fiziev is, he's number 7 ranked UFC lightweight in the world, in rumors to fight Justin Gaethje at UFC 282. And the only man to beat him, let alone knock him out, pretty much the Alex Pereira type of guy for Rafael Fiziev in the UFC's lightweight division, is Magomed Mustafayev. On the first fight of the night, not fight number 2, not fight number 3, not on the main card, but the first fight of the night has a guy that knocked out a future title challenger and gave him his only professional MMA loss. That's one of the guys on this fight. The other one, Yamato Nishikawa, a 19-year-old that turns 20 years old in more than a month, that has a record more than Magomed Mustafayev, a better record than Magomed Mustafayev, with 21 wins, 3 losses, and goddamn 6 draws. A 19-year-old has 21 wins and has fought 5 times in the last year alone. That is fight number 1. We're going to move on. That is just fight number 1. A guy that only loses at title challengers and top 15s has already beaten a future title challenger, knocking him out with a spinning kick in round number 1, I believe. Fight number 2, we got a top 15 heavyweight, Shamil Abdurakhimov, who only lost to top 5 heavyweight Sergey Spivak. Top 10 heavyweight Chris Dawkins. Top 5 heavyweight Curtis Blades. Top 5 heavyweight Derek Lewis. Bellator title challenger Tim Johnson and Tony Lopez. And former title challenger Thiago Santos. That is Shamil Abdurakhimov, and he is the second fight of the night. Taking on Jailton Almeida, in my opinion, the biggest prospect in the light heavyweight division. Magomed Ankalaev does not count as a prospect anymore. He's a title contender. Out of all the prospects in light heavyweight and heavyweight, I am most hyped about 31-year-old Jailton Almeida, who is a 7-1 favorite over Shamil Abdurakhimov, who I just mentioned who he's lost to. That is fight number 2. A top 15 guy that only loses to title challengers, top 10s, top 5s of his respective divisions, taking on a future title challenger in Jailton Almeida. That's fight number 2. Fight number 3, 2 top 15 woman bantamweight fighters. Now, not the best fight you're ever going to see, but they're pretty high up there in the rankings. Number 12 in the UFC's bantamweight division rankings, taking on the man, the myth, the legend. It's not a man, but the number 9 bantamweight in the world. Number 9, number 12 is the number 3 fight on UFC 280. We're not going to talk about that one for too much, but even the women's fights are all against ranked opponents. There's really no unranked woman fighting at UFC 280. Number 4, AJ Dobson and Arman Petrosyan. Arman Petrosyan has only lost inside of the UFC to Caio Baralho, who in my opinion is top 15 level in the UFC's middleweight division. Not to mention, Arman Petrosyan was able to go out there and beat Gregory Rodriguez, who's about to fight in the top 15 of the middleweight division. So we have a guy that's in contention for the top 15 of the middleweight division, taking on a primed, very lengthy AJ Dobson, who has every single win but one coming by finish. Absolute fireworks in the 4th fight of the night, not high-level names, but they both get finishes in pretty much every single fight, unless they're fighting freaking Gregory Rodriguez. That is a banger of a fight early on in the prelims here. Number 5 actually. A 13-1 Russian, Gaji Omar Gadzhiev, who started off his MMA career undefeated, getting an easy knee bar in his first fight on the Contender Series, losing to Caio Baralho, another guy that I'm saying is a future top 15, top 10, maybe even top 5 guy in the UFC's middleweight division, lost by a technical decision in that one. And then we got Abubakar Nurmagomedov, I believe the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov, beats Jared Gordon, Jonathan Weston, Matt Sekor, John Howard. I mean, he was a great WSOF guy, only losing to Magomed Mustafayev, who we've already talked about, Pavel Kushk, who's 22-5 at the time, and David Zawada in a very fluke submission. 2 high-level Russian wrestlers and grapplers that are working their way up in the welterweight division. Winner is going to rise in the rankings a lot after this one. That is a banger fight in the welterweight division. Then we got top 15 light heavyweights. We got Nikita Krylov taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Y'all don't know who these guys are. Volkan Oezdemir is number 8. Number 8 in the UFC's light heavyweight division. Just got off a really impressive win. It wasn't the most exciting fight or anything like that, but very impressive. Defending the takedowns of Paul Craig, defending the submissions of Paul Craig, and then beating him by decision. Outstriking him on the feet. Looked very impressive doing so. And Nikita Krylov, the number 10 light heavyweight in the world, that just starched Alexander Gustafsson, the guy that was pretty close to beating John Jones for the light heavyweight belt. And number 10, Nikita Krylov, just absolutely freaking starched him in the light heavyweight division. That is fight number 6 on the prelims. There's 2 top 10 light heavyweights that the winner might get a fight inside that top 5 and only lose to top 5 guys. Nikita and Volkan are only losing to champions, to title contenders, to top 5 guys in that light heavyweight division. So that's A really legit fight in the light heavyweight division. Next one, Mohammed Mokaev versus Malcolm Gordon on the prelims. In my opinion, a future champion in Mohammed Mokaev, 7 wins and 0 losses, just controlling Charles Jourdain for that entire fight, easily submitting Cody Durden in his UFC debut. 23-0 as an amateur, 7-0 as a pro, with a 30-0 record in all mixed martial arts. 30-0. That is better than Khabib Nurmagomedov's full mixed martial art career. And he's on the prelims. A future flyweight champion taking on the best Canadian flyweight in the UFC right now, beating the champion's brother, Francisco Figueiredo, and Dennis Bonder by first round TKO. That's just a random fight on the prelims here. Next one, Mahmoud Muradov, Caio Baralho. Mahmoud Muradov, a prolific finisher in the middleweight division, went on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 fight win streak in the middleweight division, knocking out Andrew Sanchez, Alessio Di Chirico, Trevor Smith, and more, only losing a top 25 middleweight, Gerald Meerschaert, in his last fight. That dude's legit, pretty much all of his wins by knockout. Taking on Caio Baralho, like I said, future title contender, future top 5, future top 10 of the middleweight division, and that's on the prelims as well. Zubaira Tukhugov, Lucas Almeida, guys that in this UFC's featherweight division, I think, are only going to be losing to the best of the best. I think both guys have the ability on any given night to break inside of that top 15 and contend against the top 10 and top 5s of the featherweight division. This is exciting. Both guys put on fight of the night type of fights. Lucas just knocked out Mike Trizano in round number 3. Zubaira Tukhugov only losing to friggin' Renato Moicano, former title challenger, and Hakeem Dawodu, a top 15 UFC featherweight by a split decision. That is a banger. 2 guys pretty much the exact same age going at it in a 3-round war in the featherweight division, both of which could be top 15 fighters at any time. Then we have the last one, the one that really stacks off this prelim card. Bilal Muhammad taking on Sean Brady. 15-0 undefeated welterweight, beating Michael Chiesa, beating Jake Matthews, Christian Aguilera, Ismail Nardiev by unanimous decision. Court McGee on his amateur career, he was doing very good, beating Aaron Jeffrey, a top-tier guy over there in Bellator, just dominating him and getting a unanimous decision. This dude is undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro. If he wins this fight, he will be 20-0 throughout his whole entire mixed martial arts career. Taking on Bilal Muhammad, who in the UFC has only lost to Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, and Alan Jouban, and has beaten guys like Damian Maia, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Vicente Luque. If you guys do not know how UFC 280 is the greatest of all time fight card, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, every fight from even the bottom, from the bottom of the card, Mustafaev Nishikawa is an absolutely amazing fight. None of these fights I will not be watching at UFC 280. Even the women's MMA fights, Lena Landsberg puts on some really good fights. Not to mention the main card, like I said. Chukagian Fiorot, Gamrot Dariush, Jan O'Malley, Dillashaw Sterling, and Makhachev Oliveira. But that's not what we're talking about. I know everyone's talking about that main card, the super stacked main card. What makes a good fight card isn't the main event, isn't the co-main event, isn't the title fights that top of the card. I'm not really talking too good right now. But it's what starts the card. If the first fight of the night is going to be as good as the last fight of the night, or can contend as being pretty good and towards the same level as the main event in Oliveira versus Makhachev, you got one of the greatest fight cards of all time, arguably the greatest of all time UFC pay-per-view in history. Yamato Nishikawa Mustafaev, first fight of the night, 19-year-old taking on a guy that beat Rafael Fiziev. That's going to be a war. Shamil versus Jailton, a former top-tier heavyweight taking on a future champion title contender guy. Top 15 women's bantamweights, banger fight in the middleweight division, 2 up-and-coming Russian welterweights, top 10 light heavyweights, former or future champion in the flyweight division versus the greatest Canadian flyweight right now. Future top 5 middleweight taking on a guy that gets all the finishes in Makhmudmuradov. 2 guys that could be in the top 15 of the featherweight division. Undefeated welterweight taking on a guy that only loses to guys inside the top 10 of the UFC's welterweight division. Chukagian Fiorot, a title contender fight winner, fights Valentina Shevchenko. Gamrot Dariush, winner, probably going to fight for the belt next. Jan O'Malley, winner, probably going to fight for the belt next. Sterling Dillashaw, championship fight. Oliveira Makhachev, top 3 fight of the year. Oh, UFC 280 is so stacked. If you think this card is stacked as F, make sure to go down and like this video, subscribe, and turn on those notifications because I can't wait. I'm sitting here, I'm antsy, I'm waiting for UFC 280. It's an absolute banger. Like and subscribe. We'll see your ass in the next video.